Take a look at all of these guys. What do they all have in common? Well, they are all footballers, they are all strikers, but more importantly, I think they're all lonely. Not in terms of their relationships off the field, I hope, but their relationships on it. See, long gone are the days of 4-4-2 with two men up top crashing into centre halves and knocking the ball on. Nowadays, you're more likely to see a scrawny little number 10 playing as a team's focal point than you are to see a two-striker formation. A two-striker formation would be the dance floor for some of football's Tovel and Deans, but their relationship is rarely seen in our modern football, with managers opting for different tactics. In the 7th game week of the Premier League this season, just before the international break, no team started their game with a two-striker formation, as opposed to the same match week 20 years ago, where all but 4 of the teams set out with a two-striker formation. But even in the early 2000s, we saw teams phasing out of the standard setup that seemed to be the way football should be played. But with fewer teams adopting this strategy, the beautiful relationship that is formed between two goal scorers lining up next to each other has become a fable of our past. Only a select few teams line up like this, so to see Isak and Gyökeres spearheading Sweden forward is delightful. Ekitike and Marmoush for Frankfurt have also been taking a liking to each other this season, being directly involved in 14 out of the 15 goals their team has scored in 7 games in the Bundesliga. However, pondering back to strike partnerships of the past quenches that nostalgic football thirst we all have. So here are some of my favourite front twos. Not 2 of a front 3, so no Messi and whoever, no Ronaldo and whoever, just 2 guys making football love up top. And you might not be able to guess who leads the pack with combined goals scored in a season. Freddy Canute and Luis Fabiano were one of the most lethal pairings in La Liga. Both players now sit in the top 3 of all-time goal scorers for Sevilla and push the team to their first 2 Europa League titles, also winning 2 Copa del Reys during their time at the club. From one big man to the other, Peter Crouch and Jermaine Defoe personified the big man-little man partnership. With an entire foot separating the pair in height, their combination is one of the most memorable for English fans in particular. The duo scored 26 goals between them in the Premier League to secure Spurs a 4th place finish under Harry Redknapp. Along similar lines to this juxtaposition was the strike partnership formed between Nikola Zigic and Pedro Munitis, a random duo that served Racing Santander well in the mid-2000s. El Duo Sacapuntos will always be remembered by fans of La Liga of this time. Although not as efficient as other partnerships on this list, the 11 goals scored by Zigic and the 11 assists provided by Munitis were enough to keep them in my memory. However, a much more clinical little and large duo in the 99-2000 season saw Kevin Phillips and Niall Quinn score 44 goals between them in the Premier League. The 30 goals scored by Phillips was enough to secure him the European Golden Boot that year, as the continent's top goal scorer, while Sunderland secured a 7th place finish in the league. A formidable partnership that lasted 4 seasons was the South American union between Diego Forlán and Sergio Aguero. Peaking in the 2008-2009 season, Aguero was 20 years old and just kicking off his career in his 2nd season with Atleti, whereas Forlán was an experienced marksman. The Uruguayan had won the European Golden Shoe with Villarreal 4 seasons prior and would claim his 2nd of the decade. The pair would combine for 49 goals in La Liga that season, but would continue their goal scoring the following season, leading the club to European glory. Staying within the confines of La Liga, this duo is one in which my dad always speaks very highly of. The duo of Risto Stoichkov and Romario was short-lived in Barcelona, but they formed an incredibly deadly duo in the 18 months they were teammates. Romario running away with the Pichichi with 30 goals was supported by the incredible Bulgarian, who joined in with the goal scoring, adding 16 goals to the partnership. In 1994, Stoichkov was awarded the Ballon d'Or, while Romario was awarded the FIFA Player of the Year after helping Barcelona win their 4th successive La Liga and helping the Catalan club reach the Champions League final. An African combination that rocked the biggest league in the world was Papiss Cissé and Demba Ba, as they slotted goals from all angles, and I mean all angles, in 2011-12. The short-lived partnership of the Senegalese compatriots saw them score 13 and 16 goals respectively, as Newcastle finished in 5th place. Obviously, the highlight of this pairing was Cissé's outrageous outside-of-the-boot hoop over Petr Cech's head. Going back to the Camp Nou, this time in 1989, one of the greatest duos of all time came to the forefront of the game. 2 Ballon d'Or winners, 2 Dutchmen, and 2 men with outstanding careers combined to spearhead some of the greatest footballing teams we have ever seen. Well, not me, because I wasn't alive, but, you know. The Dutch and Milan sides of the late 80s and 90s stand in the memory of football fans as some of the best teams to ever grace the game. With help from this duo of Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten, the pair lined up alongside each other for both club and country, both players scoring in the Netherlands' only ever victory at a major tournament in 1988, with Van Basten scoring that volley, and then following this up with a 4-0 victory over Steaua Bucharest in 1989, where the pair both scored a brace in the final of the European Cup. Gullit won the Ballon d'Or in 87, before Van Basten took it home in consecutive years in 88 and 89. Despite not combining for a large amount of goals, the duo were remembered for scoring when their team needed it most, and their resumes prove this. A truly unfair dynamic duo could have been found in North London circa the mid-2000s. Bergkamp playing just off the already free-roaming, galloping Henry. The pair complemented each other really, really, really well. Dennis playing in a position that is definitely not seen in the modern game, being much more of a playmaker than a goal scorer like the majority of the pairings on this list. However, Henry, heroic. Goals galore, but not just showing outstanding quality, but vast quality with the goals and assists. Their Hall of Fame moment coming during their Invincible season where they cemented their star on the Walk of Fame for the rest of history, to either stand in awe of or hate for drawing 12 of those unbeaten games, but unbeaten nonetheless. Heated debates would occur between my family's generations, as we had myself pushing Messi as the greatest, my uncle who would argue Maradona was superior, and his father who would shut us all down by claiming Alfredo Di Stefano was and is the greatest player of all time. Unable to argue with him, I would hear him out. He would paint pictures of the wonder of Di Stefano and how he would link up with another footballing great of the time, Ferenc Puskás. The Compañeros of Madrid joined forces for 7 years, scoring 334 goals between them during this era of Madrid's early dominance. Highlighting the pair's greatness was their crowning moment in front of the eyes of Europe for the first time. Widespread broadcast of Madrid's European final against Frankfurt in 1960 was scheduled, and the stage was set at Hampden Park. The main characters would not disappoint in what World Soccer magazine in 2007 would crown the third best game of all time. Di Stefano became the second player to score a European Cup final hat-trick. It's a shame it was also the evening where 127,000 cramped fans watched Ferenc Puskás become the first player to do so, overshadowing Di Stefano's performance by scoring 4 goals himself in a 7-3 thriller in Glasgow, as Madrid won the 5th iteration of the European Cup for the 5th time. They won the first 5. They truly are the kings of this competition. But there's nothing better than an underdog story, and the original giant killers of the Premier League were Blackburn Rovers, who in 1995 became Premier League champions over Manchester United and Alex Ferguson by 1 point. The source of their magnificent achievement is in large part due to the contribution made by their 2 strikers, Chris Sutton and Alan Shearer. Sutton netting 15 times would help alleviate the pressure from Alan, but it felt like Shearer scored every week regardless, netting 34 times that season, 5 years after the struggling club was bought by Jack Walker while in the 2nd division. This duo helped turn around the fortunes of the club. Surprisingly, Shearer would never go on to win the Premier League with Newcastle, a club that was much more competitive in the league during his career. A couple of personal honourable mentions must go towards Morientes and Raul, Cole and York, Nilmar and Rossi, Di Natale and Alexis Sanchez, Del Piero and Trezeguet. Who have I missed out? Make fun of me below and subscribe while you're down there. However, the double act that outscored all of the previous mentioned pairings was a strike partnership that blossomed between Brazilian graffiti and iconic 2000s bagsman Edin Dzeko. The pair combined to score 54 goals in the 2008-2009 Bundesliga season and led the line as Wolfsburg won their only Bundesliga title ever. The season-defining moment was in the second fixture against Bayern Munich, as both teams found themselves level on points. Wolfsburg ran away with the game as 5-1 victors, with both Graffiti and Dzeko scoring twice, the former scoring one of the Bundesliga's greatest goals of all time in the process. They scored 16 goals between them in the last 5 games to secure the title, Graffiti ending the season with more goals than games, with 28 in 26. Duos can help you win titles, sometimes more than one, with the treble being the most coveted achievement for a club in a season. Take a look at those clubs who have actually won the treble. You might be surprised that Madrid isn't one of them.